This is the Backlog Exposed podcast, bringing you weekly discussions on gaming, as well as quick insights into sports, entertainment, and anything else that we can think of. To get in touch with us, ask questions, or just hang out and chat, join us in the Backlog Exposed Discord. Follow us on Twitter @TheBacklogPod, or send us an email at thebacklogexposed@gmail.com. You can find all of our social media information, as well as many different ways to listen to our podcast by visiting our website, thebacklogexposed.com.
I'm Joe.
I'm Kevin.
And we are
The Backlog
Exposed.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of The Backlog Exposed. I'm your host, Kevin. Today is Sunday, September 23rd, 2018, and it's review day. So if you've been waiting to hear some reviews, today is the day. We're going to be talking about Bow to Blood, and we're going to be talking about Detroit Become Human. Episode 17 is going to be classified as a review episode. I wanted to jump into this and really just focus specifically on these two games. I don't want to talk about all the other stuff that we can talk about. I don't have Joe here with me today. I'm really just going to dive into reviewing Bow to Blood and Detroit Become Human, start you off the week, and then Joe and I will jump back into it in a couple of days and do a more thorough podcast. So we're going to jump into Bow to Blood. So Bow to Blood was brought to us by TribeToy. That's the developer who provided me a review copy of this game, and I really, really appreciate it. Not just because, I didn't have to pay for it, but because, damn, this is one hell of a game. I mean, seriously, when you jump into a game like this, not knowing what to expect, and you see a couple of, reviews online, and you watch some videos, for those of you who have not tried PSVR, you're missing out. There's something about being inside that headset that you cannot replicate in a YouTube video. The YouTube videos actually do a disservice because of how crazy it looks. Everyone's looking around, and it just doesn't satisfy the desire to understand what VR is all about. If you haven't been in the headset, when you look around, you're like, whoa, the scale is massive. You can be in a cavern a mile below the surface and look up and feel like you're a mile below the surface, standing in your bedroom. So, these are pretty significant leaps and bounds that we're making in 2017 and 2018 with VR, and I just cannot wait to see what comes next. And TribeToy has brought us a pretty attractive game. Released on August 28th, in the genre of action-adventure, which we're going to get into in a little bit because I kind of disagree with that. This is a PSVR platform game only, and it's priced at $29.99. Again, I got a review copy, didn't have to pay for it. Thank you, TribeToy. Really appreciate that. So, generally on our website, we do hype scores and we do final scores. And the hype score is something that came up with that really, when you first see a game that you've been waiting for, what is that score? What is that feeling playing that game? Are you disappointed? Are you happy? Are you angry? Are you uncertain if you're going to keep playing it? And so the hype score is, how hyped were you and how did it feel playing it? And this one is not applicable because I didn't even know it existed. I didn't know it was coming. I didn't know anything about Bow to Blood, so I didn't have any hype. And you'll see that from time to time. Games will pop up, and we'll talk about them when they come out, but we'll say, whoa, holy shit, where'd this one come from? And that's Bow to Blood for me. I'm sure it was on the radar of many people, but for me personally, I hadn't seen anything about it. So when I saw some reviews of it, I knew I wanted to try it, because people were saying this is a really great game, but I wasn't sure what to expect. Like I said, you see the YouTube videos and it just doesn't do it justice. So what this game is about is you're what they call a freelancer, and you command a heavy floating warship, and it feels heavy. You're flying around, in a boat, literally soaring through the sky, and you have to navigate it like you're navigating a flying game, but not like flying a jet. We're talking a warship. You can see the bow of your ship, and as you fly around, you feel the heaviness of this ship. It is not a fast-paced game at all. So if you're used to Call of Duty or even Fortnite or any of these like first-person shooter type games, this is going to catch you off guard. You're going to feel really slow and sluggish at first, and you're going to feel like this does not, I don't like it. But it will grow on you if you give it a chance. And I mean, not everyone's going to hate it at first, but if you expect that fast-paced gameplay, it's not what you're looking for. The reason, I believe, for the slowness is to capture that real true feeling. I mean, in the VR, you really feel like you're commanding this warship, especially if you let yourself go and you just let yourself embrace the environment around you. Some people might disagree, but it really felt like a Borderlands style environment where you had the cell shading and the environment was very dull pastel colors, but they were vibrant enough. It wasn't dull pastel in a bad way. It was good. Like I said, like a Borderlands or something where it's not everything is perfect in the sense of like, you know, you have a lot of cell shading, but it looks good inside the headset. One of the other cool things is the plot and the gameplay. Now they said, like I was mentioning, the genre is action adventure, but this is really a survival / action / shooter / commander type game. You have to command this ship. Similar, you know, I've heard it referred to kind of like the Star Trek bridge crew. It's similar to that in a way where you have to give orders to some of the people on your ship. In bridge crew, yes, you can have a whole team of people actually playing, but if you're playing solo or whatnot, you have to tell people what to do. Same here. You got a couple of people on your ship that you assign to different positions, and you have to be aware of where they're at, or you could be in a world of hurt. So they introduce you into the game with some testing and stuff. Like you fly around, you learn how to navigate, and then you just get right into the game. The game is, I believe, like a 6-round tournament where you do like 1v1s, and each round consists of 2 games or 2 levels. And the first one I had was I jumped right into doing like a capture and explore type round where you're looking for things, you're looking for a key, and you move around to avoid mines, and you have UI flying around, or I'm sorry, you have AI flying around trying to shoot you down. And so you got to take on these little guys and sometimes big guys. You got to shoot at treasures, and you just got to explore this place, rack up as many points as you can, because at the end of the round, you have a vote. And if you are the last man standing, or the bottom 2, the other players can vote you off. Now here's the key. The other players, this is a solo game, this is single player. So I do have some qualms about that, but it's a single player game, and it's all done based off of UI. So I imagine, you know, there's some random number generation going on here that keeps you alive, but at the same time, it factors in your politics. During the game, I had someone come out to me and say, hey, can you help me? Can you help me clear this? If you help me clear this round, we'll be buddies. I mean, it was a different story than that, but essentially that's what they were saying. And I chose to help them instead of deny them the help. And after we concluded the round, I was in the bottom 2, partially because I got my ship practically destroyed, and I did not, I didn't know how to get out of the round. That's a side factor here. I did not, when it came up and it said you've completed your challenges, do you want to move forward, yes or no? I think I said no. And then I was just kind of floating around. I didn't know what to do at that point. So ultimately, time went on and I crashed around a bit. But that's besides the point. It put me in last place. And even though I was in last place, this teammate helped secure me the allowance to stay on. So those politics, the survival politics, is really key in this game. You don't think too much about it, but they've really factored in a strong and awesome aspect to this game. Now, between rounds, you meet up with some of the other characters. Some of them tell you congratulations. Some of them tell you, hey, I got you on my radar. And you get to respond to them. And you can respond in jest, or you can respond in kind, or however you want. And those could factor into later on. You could get ganged up on. You can gang up on. You can pull sly maneuvers like lying to people. You can say, sure, I'll help you out. And then you can work with somebody else and not help them out and see how that results. And so on top of, like I said, the flying and the shooting, you have this political aspect to this game that is just something, it's really a genre of its own. And I mean that sincerely. I'm not just making this up. This game is not specifically one type of game. It's multiple smashed together, as I said in my review. And I think that that's key to this game's longevity. I think people are going to come back to it once they've played it, and they're going to play it again. Now, like I said, there was no hype score for this game, but there was a score, a final score after playing this for several hours. I felt like I had a significant ability to give this game a strong 82. Now, some might say 82, that's a B plus or whatever. That's an average. No, there's so many games out there these days, and you can't just go throwing around 90s and 100s for everything. This game, like I said, it didn't have much hype for me, and it was a solid game. I didn't know what to expect, and a lot of VR games, especially the ones you don't know what to expect, you show up, and they're garbage, and they're shit, and there's nothing to them, and they take 3 hours to beat. Well, this is like 6 hours just to get through a tournament season, and then you can continue again, and things change. The competitors are randomly generated. They are procedurally generated, I guess. So you might see some of the same images, but the characters themselves change, and the names change, and their personalities change, and it brings through completely different gameplay. Because if you're interested in the competitive aspect of this game, it can go on for a long time. Just like if you're willing to play a couple of games of Madden, this is going to give you that same respect and that same feeling. You're gonna enjoy playing round after round if, one, you can stomach long sessions in the VR headset, and two, if you enjoy the competitive nature in this game. The mechanics are fun. Things can get super hectic. This is not an easy game by any means. Some of the enemies specifically are easy, like the AI and stuff, but you know, when you're navigating this giant ship and you're trying to get around, and there's mines and there's enemies and there's this and that, and you're trying to look for things, or you're doing a race trying to go through the rings, the clunkiness and the heaviness of this ship definitely factors in. And I found it fun. Some may go nuts for it. But as for the controls, I would say they weren't my favorite. I'm not a flying type gamer. I don't play too many flying games, and my mind doesn't really accept the inverted controls of like pressing down here and up there to maneuver this way or that way. So I had a hard time with that at first. But you can use either the DS4 or the Move controllers, and they definitely are different experiences, so I'd recommend giving that a try. I wish this game had a demo so that you could at least try the controls and try the different styles and say, you know what, this one's for me or this one's not for me. I think that would do this game a lot of good, giving a demo out, even just a quick one, like a one-round demo. Because I think that many people who do play a demo of this will buy the full game and go on to play more rounds. One of the things, though, is it's not multiplayer. Now, it could be that they just couldn't factor it in into this game style because of how they built all the characters and the AI and stuff, but it would be fun to be going through these rounds in these tournaments knowing that some of these people are real and that they could vote against you or for you, and you could play competitively against people. I guess either the problem is retaining people for the length of time it would need to complete a tournament, which is hours, or there just isn't the numbers. I don't know what the numbers look like as far as these lobbies are concerned. I know some of the games just die off real fast. You know, once the game is no longer super active, it's really hard to get a game. So, for example, Werewolves Within is one of those games where you need players to get the game going. So people talk about how it takes hours sometimes, or not hours, but many minutes. You're just waiting for a lobby to fill up before you can begin. So I don't know if that's a factor here. But I'd love to see progress on this. I know that they're going to be coming out with some different game modes and things like that for it. I think that's really strong and really smart. You know, you see some of these companies that are coming out and they're putting a lot of time into their game, and they continue to do so before they start working on the next one. TribeToy is doing right by this game. So, that being said, look out for this one. It's not too repetitive because there's so many different game styles, game modes, controls. You're going to take some time to get used to them, but if you're like me anyways. But once you do, you can get around. Replayability, huge. I mean, honestly, if you can stomach this game, if you like it, if you enjoy it, you're going to be coming back to it. I can't wait to get back in and finish my tournament. But, I played for a while, and I really felt like I got a game out of it, and I really feel like this style is something that piques my interest. So I'm going to be going back for more. And TribeToy is another company I haven't heard too much about. I haven't really followed them too much, but I'm going to be looking at them for future games because of what they've put forth here. And that's something that really strikes my mind. When I see companies that put out good games for the VR, I'm going to be looking for their next game because I'm going to respect and trust their quality and their level of effort. So, we talk a lot about a lot of these, many of these companies, some of them just put out shovelware and some of them produce quality, good stuff and they keep doing it. Well, TribeToy, keep it up because I'll be ready to go. So I just want to wrap up this review before we jump onto the other one. Really, the risk versus reward system is key. It's helping or pissing off other competitors. I think that's the funnest aspect of this game, is being able to play those politics, something that's way different than any of these other games that are in any kind of style of this genre. I could do without that stupid announcer, but I guess some people love that style. Anyways, there's a screen at the beginning of the games, and there's an announcer, and it's like, I would say 4 frames per second. It's one of those like Japanese style. The mouth isn't moving as he's talking, but it switches to like closed, open, almost like an animated GIF. And they use that. It's overdone way too much. But it is what it is. You look at a game, a lot of people will compare this to Starblood Arena or something, which it's not. It's not even in the same. They're just both flying games of some sort, but completely different games. But anyways, I rant and rave about Starblood Arena's announcers. They can be annoying, but they're really well done. I mean, they put a lot of time and effort into the announcers themselves. Here, it was more voice than any type of imagery, and maybe that's what they were hoping for, but I could have done without that. It felt baked in and cheesy, and it would have been nice to just have a little bit more sincerity there. But that being said, buy this game. If you have a VR, this is worth the $30. I think that, again, if you had a demo, you could give it a shot and you could believe it or not. But without the demo, I'm still saying give it a shot. You don't need to wait for a sale or anything like that, because the price itself isn't that bad. We have been conditioned to only want cheap games for VR, but when a company like TribeToy puts out a game that's quality, solid, something you can come back to, you got to respect it, and you got to accept it. These companies are not going to keep making games if they can't make money, and I think that's a key factor here. When you see Dying Reborn or whatever, and these crap games that come out, don't give them anything. Don't even buy that game on sale if it's junk, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking to get your scraps. They have low expectations, low quality. Well, companies like TribeToy, they're putting out high quality, and they're trying to be reasonable here. This could be a $60 game in the future, something like this. But in VR world, $60 games don't fly. Well, respect the fact that this is a full, complete game out the gate, and it's $30. Enough said on that. So like I said, final score, 82. Definitely. Good on you, TribeToy. So, as we segue into the next game, I just want to touch on a couple of things. One, we have a website, thebacklogexposed.com. It's not too hard to type in, so please start jumping to it. Get there, you can get straight to our podcast, and we have a blog. We're writing up review articles and notes and news and things like that. Up across the top of our website, you'll see links to our Twitter, our Facebook, our YouTube, our Discord, our Google Play, and our iTunes. You can also hit the listen button. It brings you to our Anchor FM account, which is that's the host of our podcast. So you can listen so many different ways. Our Discord is super slow right now. We've been trying to get it off the ground, but you might ask yourself why you want to go to our Discord. And I'll agree, it's not super active at all. It doesn't have a whole lot of people there, but we need people to start going to it, because we need to start doing giveaways, and we want to start providing people the interactive experience of our podcast. And I know we have listeners. I can see them. So please go click on our Discord link. It's the one that looks like it's a black square on the top menu bar of our website. Register an account with Discord. Discord's a pretty cool app. If you're not familiar with what it is, it's basically a chat room I can set up a server. So there's a server for the Backlog Exposed. I can control who has access to the different rooms within that server. And we have a bunch of them. We have, just a general room. Joe and I have an admin room where we discuss the stuff that we want to talk about on the podcast. It's a pretty cool app. And you'll find that there's a lot of places that have Discord chats that you might be interested in. So if you haven't heard of Discord and you haven't downloaded it, it's one of those next level things, next things coming down the pike. I mean, it's been around for a while, and gamers use it because not only does it have text chat, but it has voice chat. So you can use it to connect with people. You can put 4 people in a room and talk to them easily, and they can come and go as they please. And there's bots and things that you can set up that will allow you to record those chats if you want to. It's just pretty cool. It's a conferencing system. It's a text system. It's free, and it allows us to communicate with you guys at any given time. We can just type a note in there, or we can put a contest in there, and we can talk about it on the podcast, but then we can send a reminder through this. And if you're on the Discord, you can set up notifications, you can turn off notifications, and I really hope that we start seeing some traffic there so that we can actually start making discussion, make it a worthwhile place to go. So of the people here that are listening, please go to our Discord. I also have a YouTube channel, but the YouTube channel is pretty slim right now. All it is it's a visual representation of our podcasts. Some people I know only listen to YouTube in the car or wherever they're going. They just put on YouTube because it's easier for them. And especially with YouTube moving over to YouTube Music, if you want to just basically run our show on a YouTube channel instead of listening to a podcast through a podcast app, you can do that. It's just a picture of our logo, and the audio is playing in the background, and you got a little just a little audio bar that synthesizes as we talk and stuff, so you can see that it's moving. But it's just another form factor to be able to listen to us. Our Facebook group is the facebook.com/thebacklogexposed. Really, really simple place to go. We all have Facebook pretty much, so you can connect with us there. And Twitter. Just join us. Again, the giveaways will probably start there and on Discord. We'll talk about them on the podcast, but we got to grow the channel, and that's how we're going to do it. Again, why? Why would you do it? Well, to help us. We're really trying to get this thing off the ground. We're really trying to move forward with it. So the reviews and the discussions and all this stuff are to help the listeners make decisions. We all have a busy life. We all have things to do. As we get older, those responsibilities grow. Joe and I know all too well. We both have a couple of kids, we both have a wife, we both have full-time jobs, and we both have a lot to do outside of the fact that we love to game. We love to game as much as we can. I know if I didn't have any other responsibilities, and I didn't have to care about my health, I didn't have to go to the gym, all that stuff, I'd be literally in every day, playing for hours and hours a day. Back when I had less responsibilities, I would game for 9 to 10 hours a day. That's what I like to do. It's my passion. Other people, their passion is to work out or to go running for miles a day. Other people's passion is to play golf. I love to play video games, and I have so many, and that is why we have a backlog, and that's why we want to expose it to you. Hopefully, as we play through these backlog games, you'll make decisions like buying or passing on games, and we'll help you out, and we'll have a fun time doing it on the way. So, that leads me to Detroit Become Human. If you played this game, which not too many of my friends on my PlayStation have, my PlayStation Plus account, have played this game, and I know this because I get to see the percentages. I get to see, as I complete a level, what other people that I know chose, what paths they chose, and I also get to see what the world chose. So I get to compare, and not a lot of people I know played this game through 30%. 30% seemed to be about the spot where a lot of people fell off, and then a couple of people that I know beat the game alongside me. I think it was just 2 people aside from me. So why? Why is that? Why did people fall off so early in the game? It's not a super long game. Again, it only took me, I would say, anywhere between 10 to 15 hours. I don't record my playing time, but I know it wasn't more than that. So why? What's going on here? Okay, so the developer is Quantic Dream. They've produced another game called Beyond Two Souls, and the game style is very different than a lot of games you play. It's not a video game, it's a movie interaction, in my opinion. So they call it a survival genre game, but I disagree with that entirely because it's not you can't die. I mean, okay, you can die, you can kill characters off, but the game will go on. There is no like, oh, you died, let's restart this level. It's, oh, you died, next story, let's move on, you know? So it's not survival unless your real goal is to keep these characters alive. But here's the key. There's so many different endings in this game that if you want to see the endings where the players died early, you got to kill them off. The replayability is infinite in this game pretty much because how long it would take to truly play through all the endings is astonishing. I mean, it would be forever. So I played through it once, and I'm probably going to play it again in the future. I think it was well good enough to play again, but not now. I have too many things to do outside of this. But I want to give it some time, kind of forget a little bit of the game, play it again so that when I get to those decision points that affect the game, I can either make the same or different decisions based off of my recollection of the scenarios. And it'd be fun to know how much the game changes as I move forward. I don't think dialogue changes too much, but scenes change. Like who's there, who's present in scenes, I know for a fact because at the end you get told like, hey, this is a scene changing or a game changing incident. So if you unlock a game changing incident, later on when you're playing, you'll see that yellow lock and you'll see that it's unlocked and that you conducted a scene that had that game-changing incident in it. So they give you all this data after you're done playing each round, and you really get to understand so much about like what they wanted to know in this game. Like the developers had a desire to learn about people's habits, and even throughout the game you get questioned. Like the game has a like in the menu, all of a sudden it's like, hey, can we ask you some questions? And you can say yes or no. And it's like, would you ever allow a robot to operate on you? Or would you have like 10 questions of some intimate questions about what you would do with robots? And you get to answer them or not. And I thought that was pretty interesting too. I'm a data guy. I do a lot of data analysis in my real jobs. So to understand what they're trying to do here, this is a game for us, but it's also a game for them. They're learning about all the players and their habits. I don't think in a bad way or anything like that. I mean, I know a lot of people get bent out of shape when they hear that, but no, really, it's like understanding your customer, right? Understanding what they're interested in or what they're afraid of or what they're looking for. If, one of the cool things about this game, so let me get into it. Okay, so you play 3 characters in this game. You start off as Connor, and as Connor, you're this like straight edge cop robot, like investigator robot. And you kind of know he's a robot right off the bat. You have to perform some tasks and basically walk a guy off a ledge or let him jump or kill him or whatever. But he's got a hostage situation he's dealing with. And it's basically robot on robot interaction. So this is a robot he's basically trying to stop other robots from being bad. So they call them deviants in the game. I'm sorry, let me correct that. He's a robot trying to investigate why androids are becoming deviants. He's not trying to stop them. That's not his mission. His mission is to investigate. And he's very straightforward in his mission. That you get told right off the bat. You're just investigating. And you are the top of the line model of every robot. I didn't get a sense that mattered too much, because you play a couple of different models. And, one didn't seem any better than the other. And along the way, there was no rhyme or reason for the model factoring in, except for what they maybe did for jobs or something, but I didn't feel like that mattered. I didn't feel like the Connor was better in any way, other than he was less of a deviant, according to the initial gameplay. You move on, and after Connor's scene, you're Kara. Kara's the only female robot that you get to play, and she is specifically a housemaid type robot. So you start off with her story where she has been repaired, and so she's in the store, an Apple store or something, but for robots, really pristine. People are looking around and you're being observed by people. So you get to see that like pet shop feeling. And then your owner comes and takes you home, and there's a little discussion about what happened, but you don't know what happened really. And you get home and you have to clean. So literally you're washing dishes or cleaning the house, and you get in the way of the guy and he's pissed off at you, and he's got a little girl and he beats her. He beats her up, and he treats her really, really bad. So just as playing the game, your initial instincts are to protect this girl. You don't have really any decisions to not protect her that I really felt you could take. Maybe you could have early on. I don't think you could early on abandon her or anything like that. So they force you kind of into this protector. It's just, how do you want to protect her? Do you want to protect her by talking this guy out of beating her and getting away? Or do you want to protect her by killing that guy? I killed him. I chose as soon as possible. In Kara's style of gameplay, I chose to play her straight up as a protector of this little girl. As Connor, I chose to play him as the straight shooter, the best model out there. So every decision I made, I didn't factor human presence into it. It was all algorithms. It was all how a computer would react. So emotions didn't play. But with Kara, it was the opposite. Emotions were primarily how my decisions were made. So with Kara, I busted out of my robot phase really quickly, and I became human. She takes the mechanical piece out of her, the chip out of her temple, and you can't distinguish her from any other human, really. She just looks like a human, but I guess robot on robot, they can tell, they can touch each other and sense that they're robots, but essentially the people couldn't. So she changed her appearance a little bit, stole the girl, or, saved her, however you want to look at it. And they ran off to try to find safety, and they didn't know where they were going. They didn't know what they were doing, but as they went along their journey, they were told to go to a specific place, and so they were on their way there. During this journey, you get the option to steal, you get the option to threaten people, you get the option to break into places, and you got to do everything you can to protect this little girl. So I basically just did everything that I could to keep this girl safe without causing too much damage. Yes, I did kill the guy in self-defense because he was attacking to break out, but all the decisions after that, I really tried not to factor in using a gun or anything like that, unless it came down to it and I felt like I had to. And there was one or two scenes where I had a gun available, and I pulled it out I chose the option to pull it out rather than keep it hidden because I had found that gun, and it did. I don't think it changed too much of the story, but at the same time, it felt fun playing it that way and staying that character in that manner. And I'll get into what happened with her in just a few minutes. So lastly is Marcus, and Marcus is an assistant to this old dying man, this painter. He's basically, he's in a wheelchair, and he's basically on his last legs, he kind of in the twilight of his life. Marcus is his assistant, but he treats him kind of like a son. You can get that right off the bat. So Marcus is very loyal to this guy. However, he goes and runs errands for the man, and as he's out and about, that's when you really start to get this presence of people hate the robots. So it's humans versus robots. They all feel like the robots came and took their jobs, and you see a lot of protests and this and that, and if you walk past a certain point, well, next thing you know, they're shoving you to the ground as Marcus, and you get to react, but how do you react? How would I react? So what I did was I was resistant. I didn't like the feeling of being bullied and this and that, so why should I accept it? So with Marcus, I played it as, I'm not going to accept this. And what I mean by that is, like, the choices that you get are turn the other cheek or respond in kind, So you get to this point where you meet Marcus's, the guy he looks after. You meet that guy's son. And the guy's son is like a druggie or whatever. He's wants his money and everything, and he hates the robot just like everybody else. And so he comes in and tries to assault the robot, tries to assault Marcus. And your protector is telling you, your owner is telling you, stand down, Marcus, stand down. Don't do anything. Don't do anything. But you know what? This guy's like spitting in your face. He's punching you, pushing you to the ground. What do? So I attack him back and almost kill the guy. Yeah, but in the process, he's called the police, and the police are on their way, and a robot doing anything of that nature, responding, becoming human and becoming a deviant, will result in the termination of that robot. So he's got to make a choice. Does he stick around and be deactivated and dead? Or does he run away? So Marcus gets, I had him run away, and next thing you know, the house blows up, or wherever he's at, it blows up, and he gets caught in rubble, basically destroyed, and you have to repair him. You have to break him, kind of rebirth him. But he feels this pain, even though not technically, he mentally feels this pain. He as a robot, understands what's going on, and he wants to stop it. So he runs into other robots. He finds a resistance group of robots. And so I played Marcus as the head resistance, the top dog. I was going to take over this place, and I was going to stop the humans from hurting the robots. They wanted to be heard just like humans wanted to be heard. And so as the politics start playing into the game, you get told, how are you with each individual person in the group? Like the robots all have different personalities. So as you're trying to run the show, you got the hot girl robot who was obviously like a stripper or something. And so she's telling you what she wants you to do. And you have like the buddy who likes to play it safe and doesn't want war. And you have the other people who are just like, hey, whatever, we trust you, Marcus. And I wanted war, and so did the hot girl. And so I played that game to make her happy, and I played that game to bring a war and to cause as much destruction as possible, which, there's plenty of parts in the game where you can cause destruction. And what ends up happening is, which is definitely a game-changing aspect, is how the people feel about you. So you as a group, as robots, so you can change the perception of the people and the robots. They hated the robots in my game. If I played this again, I would love to try to have the people love the robots. I would love to see the ending where people welcome the robots, because they do everything. I mean, in the game that I played, the robots were all deactivated across the world, and so people lost their right hand, their ability to do chores and stuff came back into their lives because the robots were turning face and becoming bad. So they all lost them. So going back to Kara, I played her, like I said, as protector mother of this little girl, and this ultimately caused her death. Every aspect of the way, I was just thinking of this little girl, every choice made thinking of this little girl, and I believe that at the time of her death, and I don't want to give away spoilers necessarily. I mean, yes, you can kill each of these characters off early, but at the time of the death, I think it was towards the end of the game for her, but there was plenty more story for this little girl and for Kara. And I ended it before I could see that story. So I think I missed out on about an hour of her gameplay, probably close to an hour. And so if I play it again, I would probably choose a little bit different route for her. I don't want to go too drastically different because I like some of the choices I made, but at the same time, I would love to see her ending, her true ending, because the ending I saw was just her dying, and dying early. So Connor is the most dynamic character in this game. I think he's kind of like the lead character if you really look at it. I mean, all three of them are leads of their own, but Connor is the one who you kind of got to make become human. And the way I played it was, that's not the goal that I had. I didn't want him to become human. I wanted him to be the top model, like the successful model that didn't break, that didn't become a deviant. It still didn't work. He still died. But the cool thing was, Connor, you felt as a unique soul. Like, you meet this other character along the way who basically gives you your missions and whatnot. And she makes you feel like you're this unique top dog. But after you die, when you come back, you realize, why did you come back? Well, you're just another version of the same model, and you're picking up where the other guy left off. And you truly feel like a number at that point. You're just a number. You're not a person. And so for me, playing the character, completely cool with it. But you felt something in the game. I felt something in the game, like some anger. Like, come on. This was supposed to be special. Connor was supposed to be important. But he wasn't. He's just one of many. He's just one of many models. So they want you. They kind of force feed it to you to be upset about that. But I still, all the way to the bitter end, I chose not to accept that. There was an untimely death of another character in the game, a side character, because of the choices I made. I think that there was probably a bit more of that I could have invested in. And also, because of the choices I made with Connor, I didn't get to find out why this all happened, like why the robots were becoming deviants, because the choices I made were specific to the mission. And the mission, if I were a robot and this is all the data I had in front of me, how would I proceed? That's how I went. So there wasn't like using emotion to gain more information. There was just using skill set to gain more information. And so there came a point where I knew if I chose emotion, I would have gotten more data, but I chose the other route, and the case was closed. And at the end of the day, I didn't get that information, and it never came. So all I did was play out the game. I didn't get to see why it all happened, and there was a lot more to it, but it was awesome. Admittedly, I wasn't happy at parts of the game. I wasn't happy with the gameplay when I realized it wasn't a game. I thought it was going to be some game like where I could, at times walk around freely and shoot and this and that. They kind of show in the commercials and in the gameplay reviews and stuff that it's this open world style thing, but it's not. It's very, very much like an Uncharted or a Last of Us. I relate it to Last of Us a lot, but in Last of Us and Uncharted, you have enemies to fight. Not in this game. There is no enemies. It's decisions. So it's like LA Noire meets Uncharted. No combat, all decisions, and way more dynamic than LA Noire in the way the decisions are made. You do have to factor in the people that you're talking to, and you do have to factor in how deep you want to go in these stories, in these decisions, in these questions, and all of that stuff. Do you want to take your time and walk around and look at every little detail of the crime scene, or do you want to get through it as fast as possible? You can do both, and they'll both result in possibly different endings. So one might give you open doors to new storylines and new chains that you would never attach yourself to if you didn't go, say, into another room and find that toy laying on the ground or whatever. But that's the aspect of this game. They give you, I think there's 45 or 50 endings. And it's so amazing to me that they all integrate. And I really, really love that, just that concept. I mean, this is, again, just like Bow to Blood, this is a style of game that I've never really played before. It's a choose-your-own-adventure interactive movie, and there are game elements to it, but they don't come until halfway through the game. For example, a lot like the Telltale series, where you have moments of quick time events. So you get to a part where you're doing a chase as Connor, and you're running over hedges and jumping walls and stuff, and you have to hit the buttons at the right time. If you don't, you lose your adversary. If you lose your adversary, the story changes. So the quick time events matter. Towards the end of the game, when I was playing as Marcus, and he had like 8 friends with him in this battle, and it was a war, and there was a ton of quick time events, and we were pushing forward, trying to get to the human enemies, or the human military, trying to get to them so we could fight them off, and they were like 1 second quick time events. Like, you just, all of a sudden, boom, you have to hit square, and you only have a millisecond to hit that square button. If you don't, guy dies, game changes. Literally back to back to back. So in one scene, I killed off 2 or 3 of my teammates, and they were gone for the remainder of the game. And it actually impacted it, because you could see in some of the scenes spots where those people would be, but they were dead. And so they weren't standing there. Their characters weren't there, and you couldn't go talk to them, and that was that. So again, Detroit Become Human has a phenomenal style to it that I have not seen. I want to go back and play some Beyond Two Souls. I have it. It was a free game in PlayStation Plus a couple months ago. It's definitely a game I'm going to tackle because it looks good too. Visually, this is the most stunning visual game I've ever seen on a PlayStation. It is astronomically better than almost every game I've ever played. We talk a lot about on the podcast about the lips and stuff and how the lips move and how they integrate and how the teeth look and all that. And I think that's like the hardest thing for all these developers to get. This is the best I've seen. It's still got its moments for me being super picky, but everything else is just amazing. Some of the characters look so real. Like the intro, when you turn the game on, there's this blonde girl talking to you. My wife came in and thought it was a movie. Who is this? Is this the game? Like, what is that? Obviously, if you look at it long enough, you can tell, your human eyes can tell that these are video game graphics, but we're getting so close to the point where you're going to find out, or you're going to have a hard time finding out if it's video game or video. And we're so close. I know on computer it's even better, but the fact that my PlayStation 4 Pro can render this stuff at the quality that it was gives me so much hope for the next generation and so much hope for even the later games in this generation. I mean, if you look at the PlayStation 3, the games that were coming out at the end that still look good today, like Grand Theft Auto 5 played really good on the PS3. It looks great on the PS4, but it looked great on PS3. Last of Us looked great on PS3. So think about the tail end of, as these companies start designing for the PS5 and the next Xbox, they're going to be aiming for another level. And they're going to push the boundaries of the PS4 so that they can start testing these new graphics, these new systems, and these games that they're going to want to, or these systems that they want to get their games out on right away. So the tail end is the funnest part, I think, of a system's life cycle for me. So be on the lookout for even better games. But Quantic Dreams, man, they can keep making games, and I'll keep playing them. Again, like I said, the first half of the game, I was bummed out because it wasn't what I expected. But as soon as my expectations changed and I accepted what this game was, I couldn't put it down. Spider-Man came out, and I waited to play it. I waited a couple days to beat Detroit Become Human before I jumped into Spider-Man. That's how good this game was for me. I didn't want to put it down once I started it. The story was good. It was really good. They could make a movie out of this story, but they kind of did already. You have iRobot or Ex Machina. It's got a lot of those vibes to it, but you get to play it rather than watch it. And I just thought it was such a phenomenal game from beginning to end, as long as you have expectations set. You're not playing a video game where you have shots fired and things like that. You're playing characters in a movie, and you get to have some quick time events that change the base of the game, and you get to make decisions and ask questions and provide answers or clues, and those things change the base of the game as well. So my hype factor for this game was high. When I first heard of this game, I really, really wanted it. I was so excited about this game that the day it came out, I bought it. But like many games, I couldn't friggin' play it. And I don't know why. I had Fortnite on my mind. Was so heavy into Fortnite that jumping into a story-based game was something that scared me, so I put it on the shelf for a little bit. My hype was high. I'd say I factored it at 85 when I jumped in. So like I said, I really wanted to play this game, and the first hour or two of playing it, I was like, okay, this is good. This is really good. I'm in. But like I said, as I played it, that score went down a little bit. I would say at one point it was sub 80. I was like, oh man, this is dragging on. And then all of a sudden it changed, and all of a sudden the story got good, and all of a sudden things started panning out. You get this quick time event where you're chasing, and actually, just to, give a little spoiler here, but as Connor is investigating deviants, he runs into Kara, who is a deviant. She's a deviant because she lost her robot and she got her human emotions, and she killed the guy. So Connor finds this on the radar, and he starts investigating her, and you get to a point where you're finding her and you have to chase her. So you're chasing her through the city, and you're going back and forth. You go from Connor to Kara, to Connor to Kara, and you're trying to catch her when you're Connor, and you're trying to get away when you're Kara, and it's the same scene, and you're bouncing back and forth, and it's just so well done. Like, it, as it switches, I guess you could make Kara lose or make Connor win, or vice versa, but the depending on how you wanted to play it. I tried to play it as best I could, like I said, the straight shooter way with Connor and the motherly way with Kara. So Kara ultimately made it away safely, and I think that was probably supposed to happen regardless. But at the same time, Connor was very bummed out that he lost her. And it just added this dynamic to the game that I was like, I got to find out what happens next. So I did, and I played it through, and I'm really glad I did. That being said, I did drop the score just slightly, so my final score for this game is an 83. I still think that's strong. 80s are really good. These are games that I say buy, play. There's obviously the games that are buy, play now, everything else down. This is the only game you should be playing. I think Spider-Man falls in that category, and Joe and I have talked about that quite extensively. So, yeah, games like that are so hype, and that actually can meet the hype. But this game right here, it's worth a play, especially now that the price has come down, especially now that, people have played it, and it's not a broken game, it's not a bad game, it's a good game. You're going to get a lot of fun out of it. So just know what your expectations are going in, and you're going to love it. So that ends my reviews of Bout to Blood and Detroit Become Human. I'm glad we finally got to get these out of the way. Again, if you go to the backlogexposed.com, click on reviews, you'll be able to see a full written review for both of these games. You can link to it, you can comment on it, you can share it. Please, tell us what you think. Tell us what you think of our reviews. Go to my page. If you click on About Us, there's a little drop down. You can click on Kevin. And on my page, I have some reviews. I'm sorry, not reviews. I have a poll, and you can vote on what you think my next game should be. I really appreciate y'all sticking out on this. I thought it was going to be a short episode, but you know me, I have a gift of gab, and I like hearing myself speak. So if you made it this long, thanks again for joining. Next episode, you're going to have Joe joining me, I'm pretty sure, and we're going to have a lot of fun talking about what's next on the backlog. And with that, everybody have a great day, and thanks for listening.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.